Hey guys! So, it turns out we kind of have an AA issue in Battlefield 5. And if you played previous Battlefield titles, you were there at the release, you're already thinking, what's new? We've already been there, we've already done it, and yes, ironically enough, with every single Battlefield title release, except for Battlefield Hardline because this one did not include anti-aircraft vehicles, we have the exact same issue. How do we balance out planes, and how do we balance out anti-aircrafts? But in Battlefield 5 we also have the third issue, and that being, how do we balance out tanks so that the anti-aircraft isn't an actual anti-everything vehicle? Just to give you a little bit of a backstory, I've been playing in the vehicles quite a lot lately, doing tons of testing for various tutorials I'm preparing. I released the first one yesterday, so if you haven't seen it, I basically combined all of the best specializations for all of the tanks in the game, except for the anti-aircraft tanks because those are a separate thing, but all of the other tanks, they are put into one video, all of the best specialization combinations are there, so if you're interested, yesterday's video. Anyway, back to the point. I've been playing quite a lot in the vehicles, and I noticed there is a big group of players who are using anti-aircrafts against everything. Not only anti-aircrafts, not even only infantry, even though they're super effective against infantry compared to tanks, but also against armored vehicles. And there is an issue here. It shouldn't be balanced this way. As someone who likes to drive tanks and fly planes in Battlefield games, and is quite good at doing so, once again, I'm not bragging about it, I've already proven I can do it, I'm just saying it if someone is new, just to let you know, I'm not the guy who takes the plane to use it as a taxi to the objective and then jump out. I'm not. I do know how to fly those, I do know how to drive tanks, but the problem with Battlefield 5 vehicle balance in general is that we have so many interesting vehicle mechanics implemented with Battlefield 5, but they are not correctly balanced out across the board. They're not correctly balanced out. And it goes for all of the vehicles. Tanks, anti-aircrafts, and planes. Because if we take a look at the previous Battlefield titles, let's say Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 1 anti-aircraft track or AA track, it's not really the best example because this one was... I don't even want to go into talking about it. In my opinion, it was the worst balance of anti-aircraft in the whole series. At least from Battlefield 3, because that's when I started playing. Anyway, if we compare it to Battlefield 3 or Battlefield 4, anti-aircraft tanks have always been able to take out infantry, and they were never such an issue, because in each of those games we had couple of external factors which were decreasing the AA's power, and, for example, tanks were actually able to crush anti-aircraft tank in 1v1 scenario. In a hypothetical scenario where there is no infantry and help involved, it's just you in the tank and the other guy in the anti-aircraft. If you were somewhat decent in a tank, whether this is Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 3, you were able to just shred the guy into pieces. And while, yes, you're still able to pull it off in Battlefield 5, the difference isn't that big. I don't know what causes it. Is it the tank mechanics and players being generally awful in playing vehicles? I'm sorry to break it down to you, but most of the player base does not understand vehicle mechanics in this game. They're not. Also, let's not forget that the whole gameplay of normal tanks, not anti-aircraft tanks in Battlefield 5, is incredibly slow and forces you to stay at the distance between you and the enemies. Now, if you are supposed to stay at the distance, you're not that mobile, that fast, or at least not as fast as you used to be in the previous games. And yes, I know it is World War II era, but still, we are talking about gameplay design here, not realism. Again, why would you go with a tank if you can go with the AA, which has an increased fire rate, better damage output, and in general is an easier tool to utilize on a distance rather than a tank? It doesn't matter that you have lower armor because you're not gonna get into a fight anyway, because you're gonna stay at the hill like 300 meters away from the objective, so who cares? Like, if it is the most reliable and effective playstyle to go with at the moment, why not go for it? And I know there will be players telling you you're a noob, but who cares? Like, players don't. At least majority of players don't. Like, so what? So what if I'm called out a noob, I'm getting like 50 kills and I'm wiping objectives clean, my team can come in and capture all of them? The point simply is, if you are forced to stay at the distance anyway, why would you not do it in a better vehicle for a distance gameplay? I'm sorry, but that's the truth, that's how the game is balanced out at the moment. And again, another thing we've already had implemented in Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, which simply, I don't even know how to wrap my head around it, because it's such a simple solution that I have no clue why DICE would not implement it to Battlefield 5, other than UI not looking as good as it could be looking if you implemented it, but a simple solution. Do not allow anti-aircraft vehicles on the maps which don't have planes. Like, that's really a simple solution, which we've already had in Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4. You were not able to pick an anti-aircraft on a map with no planes. And it makes so much sense that I'm really surprised DICE didn't carry it over to Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5, because it's really a golden solution to all of those AA campers on maps such as Devastation or Aerodrome or Rotterdam. Like, those maps have no planes, why do we need anti-aircraft? The current game design allows for such absurd combinations that I don't even know what to say. Like, let's take a look at this hypothetical example. Panzerstorm map allows you to spawn in 6 different ground vehicles, meaning you can either pick a tank or an anti-aircraft. Now, if you were able to pull it off, talk it through with the whole team, you could potentially spawn 6 anti-aircraft vehicles. 6 of them. And each faction has 2 planes, so imagine the ground-air balance. Now, imagine the balance for the infantry on the ground with 6 anti-aircraft tanks farming kills on the infantry. Now, think about it from a different perspective. And believe it or not, I've really had this happen to me multiple times when I've been playing Battlefield 5. I played the game for around 100 hours at this point, and I had this happen on multiple occasions. Basically, if you're flying in a plane and you take out the other guy in a plane a couple of times, or he's running around on the ground as an infantry soldier and you kill him a couple of times, most of them will not do anything other than type in a chat or try insulting you, but there is sometimes this one golden guy who will spawn into AA and try taking you out. Now, you might say, it's a logical solution. Yes, it is. But it is not always the most beneficial one for the whole team and playing the objective. I had a situation like this yesterday. I was playing on Twisted Steel, flying in a plane in defense, and the attackers were so upset they deployed both of their tanks as anti-aircrafts and were trying to take me out. While they couldn't take me out because I was just avoiding them, I wasn't even attacking, because I knew that as long as they were camping in anti-aircraft tanks trying to shoot me out of the sky, the other teammates were not able to push the objectives without tank support. So it's a win-win, like, I'm just holding them in the spawn, both of their vehicle slots are completely occupied, so there is no way for someone else to take other tank and just push the objective. They're totally useless, sitting in their base, while the other 30 remaining players in the team are struggling to do anything, and yes, in the end they lost the round. Now, it is not some unusual scenario, it happens quite a lot, like the current game design and balance across vehicles, it is simply not functioning as it should be. Also, before we finish, I just want to explain one more thing, because I've seen actually couple of people, or more than couple of people, suggesting a solution that anti-aircrafts should not be able to aim at the infantry level, so that their vertical aim would be blocked at like 20 degrees, and it is not the solution. I've seen multiple players suggesting the idea. It is not the solution, because if we go with it, first of all, we're not getting rid of the problem of balancing issues, we're just adding another one of the anti-aircraft being totally defenseless against infantry. So even if they want to do their job as an anti-aircraft taking out planes, they would simply not be able to stay alive long enough to do their job, because all of the assault players would see them as free kills or free points. Like, why not take something out that can't defend itself? Anyway guys, that would be it for the video. I hope I was able to bring some light into the situation and actually explain the issue, because it's a lot more complex than some players think, and it's not as simple as changing the vertical aiming capabilities of the anti-aircraft. It's really not. The issue is much bigger than that. There is multiple layers to it, and there is multiple factors that go into having it a problem. So yeah, as always, if you enjoyed, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and I see you on the battlefield.